Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltare, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. Over the last several years, I've been exploring les filles du roi, which are the king's daughters. And then, I guess around 2023, I think I decided that I wanted to do les filles mariées, the founding, the marriageable girls. These ladies came before. So when they arrived, there was almost nothing in Quebec. And for some of them, Montreal hadn't even been. So they would come and they would lay the groundwork for what would come later. And so they truly are those founding grandmothers, because when they arrived, they came to a land that was barren and very primitive. So we really need to honor their memories, because a lot of times these women, their names get lost in history, and I want to make sure we honor all our women. So before I begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three: keep you in the know. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Like a video helps get it out there. So it's just a question of, hey, I want to share this. So when you like something, it gets put into the algorithm and notifies just for you, so that you have notice of when I post a new video. The next three are ways to help the channel itself grow. So we have, with YouTube, we have the memberships. And the memberships start at 99 cents a month, all the way up to $24.99. All of you gain exclusive access to any new material. So it means that if I put up, for example, all of the May or June videos, you will have access. It'll be an open door for you immediately. You don't have to wait in line. You also, depending on the level you choose, get different perks. Some of you, for example, will get 2 hours a month of genealogical research. Some of you will get a one-on-one with me, and some of you will get free, all of you actually will get some version of some of the videos that I've done. You can select them and I will send you the actual copies of them. And so it's a nice way of kind of upping your research, if you will. And then we also have the PayPal button, which is something that a lot of people have done in the past to contribute to the growth of the channel. And so you just go on my Have Roots Will Travel and click on that button. And then, of course, there's the super thanks that a lot of people are starting to do now, which is kind of like a tip. When you like a particular video, you just say, hey, I like that one. Let me show my support. So all of that helps me out tremendously. Thank you to all of you who have done so to this day. And with that being said, let's get started and look at Les Filles Mariées of this episode. Today we're going to be looking at Les Filles Mariées, episode 126, Elisabeth Drugeon. Let's get to know Elisabeth a little bit better. She is a viewer request, but I didn't have her in my file, so it was a pleasure to get to know Elisabeth a little bit better. Elisabeth was born about 1637 in Tours, France. Her parents, we don't know. We don't have any record of that. Tours is a historic town in Normandy located just a few kilometers from Deauville, a much larger center. Once a bustling medieval port, it played an important role in regional trade and even hosted the landing of Henry V of England in 1417. In the 12th century, it received a royal charter and became an independent commune with its own mayor and court. At the heart of the town stands Église Saint Thomas, the Saint Thomas Church, a remarkable church built in the 12th century. And inside there's a stained glass window that honors Thomas Becket, who is said to have passed through Tours. The church stands as a testament to the town's deep religious and cultural heritage. You can just feel it when you look at the pictures. We're really not sure how or when Elisabeth came to New France. It is possible that she sailed on that Saint-André ship, although I haven't been able to confirm it, in 1659, the one that brought over so many of the ladies. But we do know that as of a certain date, she had found someone to love. Groom that she would select and who would select her, his name was Jean Lehoux, and he was born in 1633 in La Ventreuse, France. His parents were Jacques Lehoux and Léonard Chalin. Now, there is a population of about 125 people today. It is part of the Normandy region. It is part of that very famous département, Orne, where so many people came from to the New World, to New France. And it's a small commune and with roots tracing back to the colonial era. It's notable for those historical ties to New France, and it features two registered historical monuments, the 16th century Château de la Ventreuse that you see before you, and the 15th century Église Sainte-Madeleine. The commune was also home to Armand Louis de Seraing, a prominent military and political figure. Rich in history, La Ventreuse reflects that legacy of French exploration and settlement in North America, while the preservation of its architecture and cultural heritage remains intact. So this is where the Lehoux were before they came to New France. The Lehoux would come to New France in 1647. Jacques and Jean's mother would come along with his half-sister, and they planted those roots in New France. And so those roots were really planted in 1659, October 7th, when Jean Lehoux and Elisabeth Drugeon were married and at Quebec City. Let's see where they would make their home. Now they would settle at one of my favorite places, Ile d'Orléans. Ile d'Orléans is located in the St. Lawrence River about 3 miles east of downtown Quebec City. The island was one of the very first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians can trace their ancestry to the early residents of this island. It's actually been called kind of the birthplace of Francophones in North America. It wasn't always known as Ile d'Orléans. It might have been known as Saint-Laurent, La Grande-Île, Sainte-Marie. I tell you that in case you come across documents from that time period and you're doing research and it doesn't say Ile d'Orléans. Be on the lookout for that. It is an extraordinary place, and you can imagine how fertile it is. I took these pictures on a recent trip that I took in 2023. It's just incredible. It began, and it's very important that you know when you're researching that you know that it is subdivided. It's not one big old island. It's got different parishes. So Sainte-Famille, for example, was the very first one that was established in 1661. And then it was followed by another 4 parishes in Saint-François, Saint-Jean, Saint-Pierre, Saint-Laurent, Saint-Pétronille. These are all different parishes. And the reason I say that is for example, a lot of people got married at Saint-Famille, but would eventually end up at Saint-Jean or Saint-François. And sometimes Saint-Pierre. Those were like kind of the places people would go. So I want to make sure that if you're in that neck of the woods and doing research, that you understand that the island is broken up into about 6 different towns. Now, in the 1666 census, we have Jean and Elisabeth. Already their family is very, very big. They just got married, but Marie, Marguerite, Elisabeth, and they actually have Jacques Beatrix, who's a domestic, and he is hired by them, and he's 23 years old. So there is some level of money available. Now, in the 1667 census, we have Jean Lehoux, Isabelle. I want to also draw your attention to the fact that the name Elisabeth and Isabelle are interchangeable in that time period, very, very much. So you'll see Elisabeth or you'll see Isabelle, but it essentially means the same thing. Then we have Marie and Marguerite. Isabelle is 2 years of age. Again, it probably is that Elisabeth that we saw at 4 months of age. We're not sure. You can tell that the ages and the years are all kind of mixed up. And it states that they have 12 arpents valeurs, about 9 acres of land. 7 children. Marie would marry Joseph Renaud and would have 4 children, one of whom made it to adulthood. Marguerite would pass away at age 12. Elisabeth would marry Jean Bilodeau, but did not leave any descendants as She passed away at the age of 17. She would marry Gervais Guyon and would have 10 children, 4 of whom made it to adulthood. Gervais' mother was Catherine Collet, a fille mariée that we profiled, and I've listed the link to that episode should you want to look at it. Then we have Marie-Madeleine, who married Claude Guyon, the brother, 2 sisters marrying 2 brothers, extremely, you can imagine, on the island. And they had 6 children, 3 of whom made it to adulthood. Jean married Jeanne Gerbert and had 8 children, 4 of whom made it to adulthood. And Hippolyte would marry Jeanne Drouet and have 6 children, but only 1 would make it to adulthood. In the 1681 census, we have Jean, Elisabeth, their children that are at home are Catherine, Jean, and Hippolyte. And then we have 1 gun, 5 bêtes-à-cornes, that's about 5 goats or 5 horned animals. 30 valeur is equal to 25 acres. Jean would pass away in 1698 at the age of 65. She and Jean would have been married 38 years, a remarkable achievement. Elisabeth would go on to live another 24 years, dying in January of 1722. She had reached the incredible age of about 84. She would leave a legacy of 76 descendants by 1729. She's buried at Saint-Famille. I also want to point out that according to the burial record, it says that she was 95, but obviously I don't think that's correct. But if you were 84 at that period, definitely would be looking like you were 95. And so very, very old for that period, especially a woman. Now, Jacques Lehoux, the father of Jean, is profiled in the volume number 9 of our French-Canadian Ancestors. You can access this on our Pre-French-Canadian Ancestors Facebook page. You can download these profiles. Really, really great thing, great resource. You can also purchase this on eBay, and if your local family search library has a version of this, all the better. So it's just harder to find. So I've given you the link to the Facebook group for easy access to the profile on Jacques, which will in turn also talk to us about Jean. A final and forever tribute can be seen. When I was on the island, I made sure to take all of the pictures of all the names. And here we have Jean Lehoux and Elisabeth Drugeon. They are listed according to that. You need to understand that sometimes the names are misspelled. And so in one of the books, it says Elisabeth Daignon, but that is Drugeon, so you can actually see it. And it lists how early they were on the island as well. So just a tremendous thing. If this is one of your ancestors, to stand in front of that, it's an emotional experience. I had that moment where I was like, wow, this is them. They were here. In fact, I'm just looking at it right now. Above where it says Le Frère du Boulanger, Claude, that's my main line. So that's kind of where what I was doing the research for as well. So just an incredible moment to be able to pay homage to your ancestors. This is actually one part of the museum that you will find at Saint-Famille. So we say goodbye to Elisabeth, who made such a difference in a very, very pioneer family, and she became one of the matriarchs. Obviously, she left her imprint on Ile d'Orléans, being right there with her husband, and Lehoux, the family, was a very important pioneer family, so that is part of her legacy as well, to have literally begun that line, if you will. If you are related, if you are a descendant of this amazing woman, please let me know in the comments below. Love to see how the chain has grown. And I want to make sure that we honor her memory and we realize just how strong she was. I mean, I know they said she was 95, but obviously she wasn't. But the fact that she lived such a long life, can you imagine how strong she must have been to endure any loss, any pain, the suffering that she would have done, to leave her homeland behind. And all of them had this, but her in particular, to live that long, it's just amazing. So we thank you, Elisabeth, for your contribution, for your endurance, and for your grace. We are ever so grateful you came to our shores. And I am ever so grateful for my patrons, supporters, and subscribers. You always help me kind of keep going on, and I'm so ever, ever grateful to you all. With that being said, I will see you on the next episode of Les Filles à Marier. Until then, au revoir.